Being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 15th, 2008, call the Strategic Planning Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Jay Fisher.
Here.
Richard Flint.
Here.
Thomas Hummel.
Here.
Liz Sullivan, absent. Emily Swistek.
Here.
Longry Wang.
Here.
Tatiana Weinstein.
Here.
Beth McQuillan.
Here.
Elizabeth Hopkins.
Here.
Will Savage.
Here.
Quorum being present, we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is opportunity for visitors to speak. Any visitors? Seeing none, we'll move to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of the July 25th, 2018 Strategic Planning Committee meeting.
I move to approve minutes.
We have a motion from Trustee Flint. Is there a second?
I second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
The only thing I had is under number 3 with the motion is that Vice President Hummel moved to approve the minutes of the June 20th Strategic Plan Committee as amended. Do we need to put what was amended? Because I don't remember what was amended. Somebody wanted amended.
We don't generally do that because
You
they
don't?
end up in the
Okay.
amended
All right, that's
minutes.
approved.
That's fine.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right. I guess we'll have a roll call.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Longry Wang.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Jay Fisher.
Aye.
Elizabeth Hopkins.
Aye.
Will Savage.
Aye.
All right, the motion is approved. The minutes of the July 25th meeting are approved. We'll move on to the meat of the meeting this evening, which is item 4, or item 4 and 5, beginning it. Item 4 is review of the draft facility objectives, approach, and appendix. I know Tatiana took what we discussed last meeting and created a new draft.
Right.
Turn it over to her.
Okay, so this draft incorporates the ideas and the language that was from our last meeting on July 25th. And when I drafted this document, I put in this little change order here. I thought it made more sense to flip 2 and 1, since 2 is now a more inclusive description of our approach to interior and exterior space. And I just wanted to know if everybody agreed with flipping those. And then I also modified the language within 2A and 2B as recommended at our last meeting. I also struck it out and then created an appendix A. So if everybody's agreeable, we can move on, or it's open for discussion.
I'm indifferent to switching the order, but I just wanted to make, if you please, 3 comments. Number 1, I did talk with Tatiana about this, so this won't surprise her, but I think that we should stick to the standard terminology. What we say as objectives are really goals, and what we say as approaches are really objectives. Number 2, under Appendix A, the first item, including a family bathroom option, we did say that, but we also have been talking about a gender-neutral bathroom option. So I'd like that to stay on the table until we vote it at some point. And back to the facility document. I didn't say this last meeting because it wasn't isolated enough to call it out, but I really recommend we do not delegate to the physical plant committee to review expert advice and recommend steps. I mean, we can do that. I thought the suggestion was to farm out to the physical plant committee fact-finding about prices and this and that. I don't really think we should do that. I think this committee should handle all aspects of the strategic planning process. That's all.
Your last point, Richard, I believe what this approach or objective, whichever we end up calling it for, is that the physical plan committee, after the fact, after this strategic planning committee is done and the work has been approved by the board, and then we begin the process after that, that's the role of the physical plan committee at that point to review the expert advice as we go forward and recommend steps to achieve the objectives
Of this particular book.
of this particular, yeah. Is that not how you interpreted it, or did I misinterpret what you said?
No, and no, but
Okay.
part of the discussion at the last meeting of this group, there was some discussion about delegating to fiscal plan what I said, and then bring that back to this committee and proceeding. That is what was said, it wasn't contradicted. I understand the points you're making. I'll just lay that on the table. I don't know that I agree with you, but I'll just lay it on the table.
Is there feeling about, we'll start with the first point, which is the terminology, objective, goals, approach, objective. Is there a feeling amongst the committee members as the proper terminology that we should utilize in the document?
Well, certainly the terminology we have been using,
Mm.
and it is standard. I've taken a look at more than my fair share of proposals for funding and goals and objectives as we have been using them. It's pretty standard. If we deviate from that, I think we're going to make trouble for ourselves.
I'll just say that we reviewed a number of strategic plans, and we have them in our packets from previous meetings, and there's a variety of terms that are used, and I think whatever we choose, we should be on the same page about. These here have been used in some of the strategic plans we've seen, as Richard has viewed, I'm sure you all have, when we were investigating and examining a number of them, lots of terms are used. I don't think these are incorrect, it's just whatever we want to use, we should all be on the same page about.
I don't have any strong feeling as long as we're consistent. That's-
Any other input?
What does staff feel?
I have to agree with Longray in this regard.
Yeah, as long as we stay consistent and people know what we mean by whatever terminology we use, and
I just don't want to be duplicating the same, objective and goals has, to me, are synonyms in a number of documents that I saw and a number of different sites. So that's why I didn't use that here, but I don't know what others think.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with Tatiana with regards to those two words
But we
specifically.
can change them because there's other words like methods, strategies.
Because what you're saying is how we're gonna go about doing these things, how we're gonna meet this objective or goal or whatever we say it is, and then where you have approach, that's what
Either
we're
a
doing to
strategy,
get to that point.
A tactic, a strategy,
Yeah.
a method. So I just don't know which words we want, but we should eventually make that decision. I mean, we still have 3 other focus areas to talk about, but we should come up with two terms we like.
Mhm.
All right. Are there any comments about Tatiana's change in the order or any other?
Oh, yes. Flipping 1 and 2, is that okay? Do you disagree?
When I'm looking at the beginning of each one of these, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, they don't all seem to be in the same format.
Okay.
And I kind of want them to be in the same format. Like because 2 just starts with verbs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
feel, and like, but 1 and, I mean, I just kind of feel like they need to be uniform in the way they're written.
So maybe, I think verbs makes, do you like that?
Yeah, I'm fine with verbs, it's just then they all need to
Start that way, right?
start that way.
Okay,
Mhm.
so format wise, we like, okay, so I can come
Consistency.
back.
I mean, I don't know how other people
Another
feel
draft.
about that, but I just feel like they all need to be
I agree, because
in the
that,
same.
the number 1 that's there, I mean,
Mhm.
it lays it out, I think, correctly, but again, it's format wise, it's very different.
Yes.
So, okay, I can do another draft of that. Okay.
And I guess depending on how that's written, then
We can
the change in
decide.
order might, it might flow better
Okay.
if it's in the same
I'll flip
structure.
it, and then we'll see how that looks with all verbs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
That'll help me
Okay.
to
Okay,
understand what would look better.
all right.
All right, any other input in regards to the facility draft that Tatiana created?
We're going to discuss the idea of including gender-neutral bathroom.
Thank you. Feeling of the committee in regards to Appendix A, Item 1, which currently states, provide adequate restroom facilities on the floors, including a family bathroom option. Would Richard suggest including the word including a
Family bathroom and gender-neutral.
Gender-neutral bathroom option.
Can we just keep it simple and just say provide adequate restroom facilities on all floors? And you can take out the family bathroom option or?
I think that was the main point of a lot of our discussion items, of having more, like, universal design concepts, and that's a piece of that, because it's a larger space.
And we have agreed, I think tacitly, that we'll start looking explicitly at diversity issues, and gender-neutral bathroom accessibility is certainly a diversity issue.
I agree with that.
Any other comments from the committee members?
And again, we're not making, I'm sorry, Jay.
No.
Go ahead.
Marjorie?
Was gender-neutral bathrooms in the engagement survey, was that high on the list? Is this something we have, that is the wish or of a trustee, or is it something we addressed? I don't recall how that was rated or scored.
Beth's bringing up, that's just for our group, it wasn't part of the community engagement. Is that what you're talking about, community
Well,
engagement?
both actually.
Well, that was scored there, and I think when I use the term family bathroom here, it also incorporates what I think Richard is referring to.
I was gonna ask Richard if you could explain to me how a family bathroom and a gender-neutral bathroom would function differently. My idea of the family bathroom was like those bathrooms that are single-use with a large open facility for anyone to use, regardless of gender or regardless
Exactly.
how it would work. Unless you were thinking of it, the family bathroom functioning in a different way.
Yes, I was thinking of it functioning in a different way.
Okay.
I was thinking, I mean, I'm not excluding the possibility you raised. A lot of bathrooms have that sliding thing to indicate who's in there or who's allowed to be in there. But I was thinking, as regards to a point you were making, about having a bathroom up on youth services, and you wouldn't want it to be, you wouldn't want the staff bathroom to be shared by families.
Yes.
Because a family could be in there and then a staff member not know it, and then have a whole lot of drama ensue. I was thinking of a gender-neutral bathroom as being maybe a one stall, a very small thing, maybe one or two of them, so that people who don't identify with binary gender could use it without interruption of any family or any other hetero user.
And you mean, and it wouldn't, and then the family bathroom would be accessible to then families, right?
Exactly. People with infants going to change, that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean,
family bathroom is like an individual bathroom, it's not a shared bathroom, correct?
yeah, it's a one, well, it's not a one person, but it is a one unit
Yeah.
bathroom where more than one person can use it, and no matter the gender. And when we were discussing this, that's why the word adequate is there, we were talking about that not only on the youth services floor, but perhaps having one or two on the adult floor if we are in this facility. So, in effect, it serves both purposes, family as well as gender neutral.
Right, we talked about caregivers being not of the same sex.
Right.
It seems like it's my experience now that there might be a logo on the door that'll have like the changing table is inside, but it works for all purposes, whether it's.
So maybe the term family bathroom isn't the best term, but it's an inclusive bathroom, perhaps.
Well, so since we're not here to lay blueprints, why don't, maybe I would just suggest we just make the language change, understanding that a bathroom that would accommodate families and gender-neutral patrons, and then we'll work out the details later of whether that's one stall or two stalls or whatever, but that we're meeting both types of needs. Emily, what do you think?
Well, that makes sense to me.
I like Tatiana's use of the word inclusive, instead of including an inclusive bathroom option. Does that?
I wouldn't know that it was gender neutral if it said inclusive.
Well, what does inclusive imply to you then, Richard?
It doesn't necessarily imply gender neutral.
Okay.
Because
I think
sometimes,
we want to be explicit about this.
Okay.
well, and sometimes you go to places and you see it says family bathroom specifically on the outside, and then you see other ones that just have both a male or female or a whatever symbol
Yeah.
on the outside. That's just also a single use one, but it's separate from the family.
Yeah.
But a family bathroom isn't a part of like a regular men's or female bathroom. It's like its own bathroom. It's not stalls or anything. It's just, I guess, a room, if you will. So,
Let me do a little research on some language choices, because there's a lot of new options out there in a lot of different facilities. And I'll see what I can come up with. Since we're gonna have a draft anyway, a redraft. Okay.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's you want to be inclusive, but in the spirit of inclusive, you don't want to be exclusive. So that's kind of the problem I have is you just make it too. In the spirit of inclusive, become too exclusive. So I think some sort of a multi-purpose bathroom to address the needs of various demographic of the patrons or something like that would be generic enough for us to say all the options on the table.
Yeah.
I think that's what you mean, probably, Rich. Jay, on the inclusive piece of it, kind of.
Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, you're gonna come back to us and give us
Another-
some more language.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you've got some work to
Considering.
do.
That's why we're here, that's why we're here to talk about all this stuff. Okay.
Have we addressed all the issues you raised, Richard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the facility bucket that Tatiana created?
just to be clear, I don't know what was said, I don't recall what was said at the last meeting, but obviously the physical plant committee would go back to the full board.
Of course.
Yeah, not the strategic plan. So,
All right, we'll take this language up again after Tatiana tweaks it. We'll move along to this time the meat of the meeting this evening. Item 5, discussion draft technology innovation objectives and approach.
Okay. I do want to introduce Sandy Hayes, who's sitting in the wings. Sandy is our IT manager, and we invited her, President and I invited her to come just to be available for questions and for comment, okay? All right, so if we take a look at our draft, I did use the notes from our May 2nd meeting, and that was the chart of terms, as well as some ideas that have been discussed over the years, and I created the draft for this focus area for technology and innovation. So I created the objective, and we can change this obviously, but the objective is implement and administer effective, efficient, and innovative technology throughout the facility and on campus. And then under the approach, I listed 5 tactics to achieve this objective. So on number 1 is developing an IT plan that includes A, B, C, and D, which are a technology replacement schedule, a disaster recovery program, updated IT infrastructure, and then enhanced network and facility security. Under the A, B, C, and D, so under a technology replacement schedule, I was discussing with Sandy, looking at about a 5-year cycle for that. And then under disaster recovery program, we're talking about our backup systems plan. And then under updated IT infrastructure, that's basically our internal architecture here. And then regarding enhanced network and facility security, you're gonna have to help me on this, Sandy. It's about passwords and group policy and then facility access. And can you talk a little bit about what's group policy and that kind of?
Microsoft group policy, right now, the way the structure is for our network, it's kind of generic. People don't have individual logins. It's all by department. And I think that was to facilitate sharing, but it's not the most secure. you're much better off if you have individual logins. And in the past year, I've been trying to deal with physical machines, and my aim is to get to the group policy.
So that's just an example of that, but working through a plan that includes all of these 4 things, I think is needed. And then, yeah.
Like, so like, says you log in via the department, but is there a way, like, if it was, I would assume if it was individual signing, you could have access to the same folders, right? Because like in
You
my
could.
work, you know, there's
Yes.
3 of us in the department, so, you know, have
Yeah.
a personal login,
Right.
you need to go to the right drive
Right.
or the right file. Okay.
And we've got like a kind of a mixed bag of stuff, but we need a more uniform thing. Now, under number 2, and this is some clunky language, but and we can refine that here tonight, but adopt uniform IT hardware strategy, purchase and contract in accordance. And this is, again, back to the patchwork kind of system we have. We have Dell computers, we have Cisco servers, we have Dell servers, and we're trying to get more uniform purchasing and, I don't know, help me out.
Well, just standardize the equipment that we have. The structure is very difficult to maintain when there's all these different servers, so.
And that's a result of over the years of kind of patchworking it instead of starting from the beginning with one particular brand, I guess is
And
the term.
sticking with it, yeah.
So how is approach 2 different than 1A? If you're, I'm assuming if you're adopting hardware strategy, is that not part of your replacement schedule, or is that?
It's related,
It's
but the
related?
replacement schedule is more about replacing all the PCs and new services every so many years.
Mhm.
Replacing all of the switches every 3 years. Replacing all of the, what else?
Servers.
Servers, so that's that piece of it.
A is also software, or our library ILS, it can be.
Oh, right, true.
So A would be hardware and software.
And then number 3 is reconfigure the server room, servers, switches, appliances, and cable management. And what we're talking about there is basically shelving in that room, replacing the ceiling tiles that are falling apart because the cables are coming through it a little too much. Recabling, and it's about also access issues and making sure the server room, we can troubleshoot easier by accessing what we need to access there. Anything else?
Yeah, that comes back to what similar to what Jay's question. So how would that be? Would that be part of the whole update IT infrastructure? Because infrastructure can be the physical piece and also, of course, the network piece of it, right? So you're doing this reconfiguring the server room. Is that part of the IT infrastructure update?
I think it's related. It is, because that number 1, the ABCD, it's part of that overall plan. I want a physical document that's our IT plan, a technology plan for the library. So I'd like that to be a part of this bucket, to really have a document.
And then you highlight specific actions, maybe some of them may fall under the plan, specific under the plan.
Number 4.
Sure. Is the staff and the patrons, are they on the same servers or 2 separate servers?
There's a number of servers.
The public stuff is separate from the staff's.
Gotcha, okay.
Number 4 is optimize RFID components within the facility. Now, you remember we used this term before. This is where we can flesh out that overlap between the facility and that facility focus area and this technology focus area. We mentioned RFID in Appendix A, and we used that word optimize, and I think that was the best word to use because here under technology we can delineate what we mean by optimize. So under A and B, we talk about exploring innovations to enhance that user experience, assist with inventory, and then to provide additional security. We also talk about examining ways to streamline tasks through automation.
Enhance user experience, what does that mean?
So checking out materials, and right now at the kiosks, you are scanning barcodes. Instead of doing that with each individual item, you can just place your items on a pad and it checks you out. So it's a much
Perhaps we should say that. What you just said maybe could take the place of enhanced user experience.
That's a lot of words.
We could make it work.
Would you recommend a way to say it?
I mean, there are also other things too, Richard, like it makes stuff a lot easier to check in as well. So we can do that faster, stuff can get off patrons' cards earlier, it can get back
That's
on
true.
shelves faster. It's easier for us to do inventory, so we can make sure everything we say is here is actually here.
Yes, but, I mean, maybe all those are good to list at some point, but I'm wondering what an enhanced user experience would look like. If I'm a user, so, I mean, if you're saying you make it easier to automate checkout of materials?
Or checking in, like Will said, there are RFID, I don't know what to call them, but there are book drops where if you deposit your materials, they're automatically checked in.
So maybe that we could say that, automate RFID to automate checkout or check-in.
Check in and check out, yeah.
Well, we
To
can say
Will's
that in
point,
B. I mean, it talks about examining ways to streamline tasks through automation.
I think it's trying to keep it simple, because it seems like it's
We could go deep on any of these things. I mean, we can drill down into a lot, but.
Well, I mean, if we're saying it someplace else, maybe it doesn't have to be in the sentence. Assist with inventory, provide additional security, assist with check-in and check-out. Maybe that could take the place of enhanced user experience.
Or can we just say something like explore innovation to enhance user experience via, I've forgotten the word,
Circulation?
check-in,
Automated
check-out.
circulation.
Automated check-in, check-out. And then comma, assist with inventory. If
So-
you add that phrase, would that make it more understandable to the reader of how that will?
It would make it
Enhance
more
their
understandable to
experience.
me, but then we wouldn't need the word enhance.
So then, are we gonna go that deep down the rabbit hole for every number?
We'll have to go down and see, we can't say right now. We'll have to go
Okay.
line by line and see.
I will say that when I first got here, when we were in a lot of administrative team meetings, that's what a lot of our meetings were we were going over the job descriptions for all the positions, and we ended up sitting in a 2-hour meeting talking about the same line for a job description, and that was all we did for an entire 2 hours. And it was not productive at all, and it took us an extremely long time.
I was not leading that meeting.
You were not. She was not. So I hesitate to, if we wanted to stay standardized, we talked about the objectives or the goals, objectives, the terminology. I hesitate to go super deep on one if we're not planning on going super deep on everything.
We can do what I think Jay suggested there. I think that's a better explanation. But I'll agree, not going super deep on everything isn't necessary. Otherwise, we're gonna have an appendix for each bucket, which we could do, but I'm not sure is necessary.
I mean, are those like the only 3 things RFID basically will accomplish? Or is
In
there
a very
more?
general sense, yes. But,
But there could be other things as well.
well,
I don't want to,
I think those are big things. Enhancing our user
Oh, I
experience,
agree.
inventory, security, automation, those are 4 big areas.
I agree, I was just saying, keep it simple, but I mean, I'm fine with either way, you want to go in more detail on that, that's fine.
I understand what Bill's saying, I tend to agree, but I think maybe a couple extra words there might clarify to the reader. While assist with inventory and additional security, I think are more self-evident than what enhanced user experience is.
Yeah, true.
So
what is for
Yeah,
me,
so
right?
so how are we wording that then?
I think that's what Jay said, right? So
They did.
explore
Thanks.
this, to facilitate faster check-in and check-out, and assist with inventory and provide additional security.
Efficient,
Automate
fast.
check-in, check-out process or something like that.
Instead of check-in, check-out, can we just say circulation, just to simplify it, because that's what
Sure.
you're circulating materials.
Sure.
Is that
So-
clear to you?
Explore innovations to
Enhance. That's correct.
Enhance,
Are we still keeping in enhance?
I just want to know
Let's say
what,
automate.
I want to know what we're talking
Right,
about.
the question, are we gonna keep in the phrase enhance user experience via or through, or just get rid of that and say explore innovations to automate
Circulation.
Isn't that what B just says though?
Well.
In that case, we don't need B.
Okay, cool.
I think inventory.
But then you can't have an
I think
A if there's no
inventory
B.
being is to figure out what we have on the floor and where things are, which is different than circulation. which
Oh,
is-
no, I was referring to 4B says examine ways to streamline tasks through
Task.
automation. I don't know if I like using the same verb in A and in B, that generally.
I think I divided it that way, now I'm thinking back, because B to me was more looking at a number of ways to streamline tasks through automation using RFID, as opposed to A being more about the user and their experience in using RFID, and
As opposed to B is more staff.
B is more, well, not staff, but, I mean, staff plus,
The library as a whole.
yeah.
Yeah, so using the tool
Facility.
to find other ways of doing things better. So maybe not a direct result of RFID. RFID is really basically say automation of these include security. That's a direct benefit. There's an indirect benefit from having this as part of your hardware to help you streamline other tasks because of that, right? So
True.
that's probably what you were thinking.
Well, I think we've got a lot of language that we've used. I'll come up with some, we're gonna look at drafts. You all think about it too. We'll come back with something and hopefully it'll.
Okay, and can you add a 2 in front of assist, please?
Where? To assist.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then the objectives, that should be and, not and, I'm assuming. Is it implement and administer effective, efficient, and innovative technology?
Yes.
Circled on my paper too.
Okay. All right, number 5, improve access to technology resources. This is very simple, but this tactic is about the user experience. So, because we talked about digital access a lot, 5A, that app, is a goal to optimize our resources by making it even easier to like access our databases, our catalog, program information, and so on. So creating a functional app is essential right now. It's in process. We have some database work to do, but we haven't launched it yet. We haven't really promoted it, and so that I think is important to do. B, expand technology education opportunities via public programming. So if you look at our very first value on our website, it reads, offer materials, technologies, services, and programs that will help meet the diverse and ever-changing needs of patrons, both within and beyond our walls. So expanding our technology instruction, especially since our numbers month to month are increasing and patrons are requesting a lot more technology programming, I think that's our duty to also provide that service as a library. I know that Elizabeth has a number of programs. I know Will has his STEM programming and a lot of people requesting more technology-based programming. So I know last night you had one.
Yeah, so we had Microsoft Excel for beginners. We had 20 people signed up and we only have 10 laptops, so we were already strapped.
Yeah, and that's like a basics class
Yes.
for Excel. And then I know you guys are doing like coding classes and other STEAM programs, so.
Yeah, we some of our more popular ones include coding with different Lego kits, and we were fortunate enough to have 4 of them, so we can have 8 kids at a time. But those will fill up the morning that they are available, as Emily knows well.
So I just think expanding that is an important piece. And that leads into letter C, providing appropriate space for technology education opportunities. So right now we have most of them in this room. And we also have the ability to go one-on-one at the PCs upstairs and downstairs at the public PC areas, and that's not optimal. So whether or not we have like a smart meeting room or a smart lab or something like that, that can fit in here, or if we reconfigure this space, we have a better setup instead of using that laptop lab. Maybe it's a smart wall or something. I think those things are important, and then keeping up to speed with technology. That particular piece of equipment up there that's supposed to project is outdated. We don't use it any longer. We have carts. So I think it's important to provide the right material, technology, as well as equipment to make space work.
Going back to 5A, you gave a very nice list, I think, of 3 functions the app should perform. Could we just put those in there? If I read launch library app, I'm thinking to do what?
Okay, I can explain that.
Just write down what you said.
Okay. To provide.
Any other comments on tactic approach, objective 5, whatever we're going to call it?
If I can share or kind of expand on what Tatiana said. I have 2 things. So one, when we talk about a dedicated space, something that I feel like you guys should know is that when we offer our computer classes for adults, we do 8 classes for a newsletter cycle, which is 2 months. 4 of those classes are going to be during the day, and 4 of those classes will be evenings and weekends, so that we can accommodate all types of folks with different schedules. But evening and weekend time in this room is very, very challenging. So we are struggling to meet that need based on our lack of space. So I think that's important to note. And 2, Tatiana mentioned one-on-ones on the floor, which of course we do, and a lot of patrons, I think, come and use our computers because they know their friendly librarian is behind them and will help them. But it really is disruptive. That area on the adult services floor anyway, I'm not speaking for Will, is a quiet area, and we don't even allow cell phone use at the public PC. So then if you have somebody doing sort of a one-on-one tech session, it's really disruptive, and we do get feedback about it. So just wanted to share that.
Do they have to schedule the one-on-one, or can they just
yeah.
think?
No, they don't have to schedule. They can just ask.
Okay.
If it's too intensive that we couldn't realistically do in a one-on-one, that's a different story, but very rarely is that the case.
Since you mentioned the Excel courses, I just want to point out that I used to teach those all the time, 3 or 4 per term at several schools, and the demand was high.
Yes.
But the colleges stopped offering those classes because they don't fit in with their mission. But the demand hasn't changed. So I think that since you say you got 20 people at the class but only 10 PCs, I think we should probably count on that demand staying constant or rising for both database design and spreadsheet design and database design.
And what we would call the basics classes, like Excel or Word, or even just computer basics, like this is a mouse, are in demand here. We do get a lot of people.
Yeah. Even to elaborate on Richard's point, those are classes that aren't being taught at the elementary level anymore or the junior high level anymore. So we'll get kids who are very adept at using touchscreens and other devices, but don't know how to copy paste. So that demand is not going to go away.
Yeah, I think how you lay out point 5 is good. And there's something else I want to throw it out. I don't know whether it's belong here or some other areas of focus. Is about, the staff resource and knowledge and education. So we invest in all the equipment, the hardware and software, but end of the day, you also have to have knowledgeable staff or subject matter experts as part of this bring into the next century, right? So besides the IT manager we have on staff, what things you can do, whether it's bring in, hiring another subject matter expert specific for the area you want to focus and bring to innovative technology here, or educate the staff you have already here to bring their adaptability of new technology to a new level, so you can handle all the questions that patrons have, because you don't need sometimes to have special programs. Sometimes they say, hey, how can I do this, right? You see, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to Apple Store before. You wait hours to answer a question, right? So something like that, they're not. Sometimes they just expect maybe the staff can help me. So I'm just thinking, as we talk about technology innovation plan, when you think about provide the appropriate education or increase the staffing in this need to support the patrons' needs going forward.
Yeah, that would better fit into the training bucket or
Organizational culture.
Yeah, then that will make sure that we address.
It's a perfect segue, actually, moving into what we discuss next.
Well, is there any discussion at these 800
I
foot view?
think that this did you know, 1 through 5 did a good job of summarizing what we heard in our community engagement and what we've talked about here as a group. And I know we've had times here worrying about the words, but I think we're all on the same page almost with what we're trying to accomplish. And one of the chief things is being flexible. As Tatiana mentioned, we need to take the technology plan sort of out 5 years. And, you know, what you do year 1 may not still be in place in year 5. And which is very particular, but I think overall we're just trying to be flexible so that we can be meeting the needs of the public and our facility in the terms of technology. To me, that's the overriding goal here, or objective.
So are there other comments in regards to this draft area, bucket, whatever you call it, as a whole, in regards to the objective, the approach, any specific language or ideas, or do we think that this is a good description of what we talked about and where we want to go?
This will take us to the next level.
Yep, I agree. And one question, I'm just out of, I don't know what you guys think. So we have, for example, committee, we have physical plant committee. So I think as we invest more in technology innovation, do we need even have a level of if this is one of our focus area, which committee does it belong? For example, if we bring in IT technology plan or infrastructure plan, because I think that's different than the physical plant committee's responsibility.
We used to have one. We used to have a technology committee.
I just, for discussion,
But
we should have
at
one.
that point, that was 15 years ago. At that point, technology didn't change fast enough to really justify much. So it found its way to physical plant.
Because I think you raised a point that I think the board's going to have to talk about sometime is physical plant. Obviously, this falls under physical plant, but should it be
But should
separated
it?
out and get its own committee?
Right. To have the level of focus that we want, right?
So any other comments on the language, on the ideas? It seems like so far it's been, we wordsmithed a little bit, but people agree with this is where we want to go with this area.
Okay.
All right.
Our agenda, I think we're towards the end, but I'd like to just remind folks that our next meeting date is September 18th, and that is a Tuesday. That's different, at 7 o'clock. And then the other dates we have, just a reminder, October 19th and November 1st are still scheduled.
What were they?
September.
October 19th.
October 19th and November 1st. But the next date is September 18th, Tuesday. So for next meeting, I know that it was brought up at our previous meeting about tackling 2 buckets. So I can tackle organizational culture and advocacy, outreach, and awareness, or do we want to do them separately? We got through this pretty quickly.
Rapidly.
I think this was a really effective meeting. I could see us doing both, having 2 short and sweet meetings, but if we are able to get through them together like we were this one, I'd say put 2 of them together.
Both of them. We can always kick one.
Let's really try.
We can try.
and work
Exactly.
together.
We can plan on doing 2, and if one takes too long, we can just
That sounds
postpone
Postpone
it
it.
off to the next meeting.
Okay, because I do want to make mention that we will still need an executive summary or something like a development document that will precede all of these focus areas, and that will definitely take some discussion, I am sure. So we're going to talk about like our guiding principles and things like that, and use some of the other language we had, like diversity and using data-driven decisions and that kind of preceding document. So that's going to be a long meeting as well, I think. So I can try and do my best next go round with two focus areas, and then we'll go from there. Okay.
And we'll see the new drafts of these ones
Of
too,
course,
right?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, any other comments, questions? Suggestions?
Move to adjourn?
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:44.